then screams it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The pomp proceed is mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful. Friends, welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight is the winning report. All the news except we win, and we win by nature of our soul, our heart, our mind, our body being in connection with the highest goodness, which is indestructible and infinite and eternal. So how could you ever lose? Easy. Done. So let's get into it tonight. Go to roguesoul.org to find everything I do. Receive one-on-one healing from me. Become a healer yourself. Learn all of the spiritual skills and abilities that I use. I share with you. You can get my books here, the Channeled Source Message books, the inspirational books, as well as the fictional trilogy, Sine Curve of Aeons, Earth, a Trough in Time, and Trinity's Genesis, A Future Once Removed. All of those are there, as well as Audible, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. You can read the testimony of all the people who've worked with me one-on-one over the years and all the beautiful things they have to say about all the lives transformed. And again, if you want to book a session, it's here. Many of you have my Calendly scheduling platform bookmarked, so you know you can just jump right in and grab a session whenever you need. I do lightning oracle rounds, which are the most accessible, cheapest things that I do. It's a group event every first and third Tuesday of the month, in which you can come and receive a message from your spiritual guides or allies, answer any question that you have, and the like. And One Day of Brightness is coming up here. So aside from the tarot readings, the sound healings, and all the one-on-one stuff I do these group events. Sometimes this is actually the last One Day of Brightness ever, and that is this Saturday. It's in conjunction with the fall equinox, the autumnal equinox, which we just had on Monday, the 22nd. So happy equinox to you. If you didn't know, you know, it's officially fall. And this is the last solstice or equinox, One Day of Brightness event that we will have. So Catherine and O'Shea and myself, as usual, will be bringing you some powerful blessings, channeled messages, healing practices, wisdom, and more. All of that is this Saturday, and it is for anybody who wants to come. It's virtual. It's anywhere in the world. The amount of transformation and high-level energy and blessings that you get to receive is insane at One Day of Brightness. It's pretty amazing. It's practically like doing an entire spirit guide session with me, but it's a little bit longer and it's way more affordable. So I hope you come to this final One Day of Brightness this Saturday. Again, it's virtual. If you can't be there the whole time or at all, then you also get the recording, so you can hop in just like being live with us. No difference to you. And so you can check that out on the recording if you can't be with us during the actual event itself. Never a worry. So please do come and join us for this last and final goodbye to One Day of Brightness events. Is in 5 years, I believe we've been doing these. So pretty amazing, and I'm very excited. And I hope to see you there. That's all at roguesoul.org. Also, rogueways.substack.com has plenty of content. Free subscribers get all kinds of articles left and right and center all around the sphere. And anybody who is a paid supporter gets channeled messages from the spiritual ancestors. So those are for paid supporters. And once you become a paid supporter, not only do you get access to those, you get access to the archive, and you support all that I do, this show, and everything else that I get to provide people for free. So thank you to all of you who find value here and who want to share back for becoming a paid supporter at rogueways.substack.com. And we'll start here. President Trump is having a little laugh as he has all of the presidents and then his portrait and then a portrait of an auto pen signing Biden's signature and then another portrait of himself. So this is what he's done with the White House decor here. I don't know if it's just for a moment in order to get this shot or if it's going to stay there the whole time that he's in office. It's pretty funny. Should be something we can all laugh at. I'm sure there's some people who are genuinely deeply upset about it. And I feel for them. So that's what's happening there. It's pretty pretty amusing. And Jimmy Kimmel has returned to ABC. He actually never left. This is one of those stories that is so highly divisive that depending on who's reporting on it, you get a different story. And so what like technically officially happened in the first place is that all of the affiliates that carry Kimmel's show, so not Disney, not Hulu, but all the other affiliates, the vast majority of them said, we don't want to carry Jimmy Kimmel anymore because of what he said. If you don't know, what he said was that it was MAGA who is responsible for killing Charlie Kirk, which is not only already at the point he said it, by all ostensible evidence, not true, but it's also, again, feeding right back into the divisive political rhetoric that's heated and that's violent and whatnot. So, affiliates have the right to carry or not carry. They're affiliates. They're not the network that hired him. They're not paying him. They're not in a contract with him. And so they said, we're not going to carry him. So while it was being sorted out, he was suspended. So all the talk you heard of like he's canceled, he's never coming back, all of that, it could have happened while he was suspended. They could have then decided, you know what, we're going to buy out the rest of your contract and you're out of here. That could have happened. Or it could have gone the way it has gone, which is that they, understood there was nothing they could do to bring those affiliates back, that those affiliates were not going to be happy no matter what. And so they decided to keep carrying him on their own. And those affiliates will now carry news programming instead of Jimmy Kimmel. So they're just going to have more news or repeats of their news in that slot instead of Jimmy Kimmel. That's what's happened. None of it is like, oh, you did this, or it's not like, oh, people canceled their Disney enough to get Kimmel back. That's not what happened. They're going to say that, and they're going to pretend that's a win for them. And it's cool. I mean, I'm not saying that didn't have any effect. It definitely probably persuaded Disney and Hulu to keep him. But it's not the reason why, like those affiliates are canceling him either way. So that's the official, what actually went down, and whatever the FCC did or didn't have to do with it, those are the actual things that determined what happened or not, was the list of events that I just shared with you. So again, he was never permanently canceled, and he was never like brought back out of permanent cancellation. It was always a suspension. It was always trying to figure out what they were going to do, and this is what they've done. So it's really like a nothing story, and it means nothing and it is nothing, but there's your clarification on it if you were confused. Trump's labor union executive order has designated NASA as primarily an intelligence or national security agency. What's hilarious about this is that the alternative conspiracy, sort of alternative thinking community was like, oh, gotcha. We knew it all along. NASA was always a spook agency. And that's been really funny to watch. And I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying the reason for this is quite practical, and it's so that NASA can't unionize. That's it. That's the extent of the thinking on this and why this happened. The motivation is purely financial and political. It has nothing to do with NASA as an organization, or what they do or what they don't do. And that's not going to stop everyone from saying it does. Sure. You say it all you want. Believe it. It may actually even be true, but this is not evidence of that. So don't use this as evidence of that if you're going to make the argument that NASA has always been purely a intelligence operation. The Pentagon has limited journalists' access to military information. People are crying like First Amendment, First Amendment. We've actually never had the right to know what the military is saying or doing at any given time and publish it. That's never been true. So it has nothing to do with the First Amendment, has nothing to do with the freedom of press. Sorry, is that the Second Amendment? Whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It literally is just them saying like, okay, we've given you a lot of access and a lot of free reign, and now we're going to pull some of that back. And all they're saying is you can't publish anything that you hear here about the Pentagon, about the military, unless it is something we specifically said you could publish. That seems fair to me. They're like, we're going to let you in, and then we're going to make sure that you only publish what we want you to. By the way, we don't have to let you in. So like, again, very fair, very misconstrued, very easy to misunderstand. Not a big deal. So none of these so far even matter. These are just clarifying reality for people. HIV prevention drug is coming out. It's going to cost $40 a year. Guess what? It's an injection. Does it have nanolipid particles in it? Probably. Does it have PEG in it? Probably. Does it have mRNA in it? Probably. I don't actually know, but I'm just guessing based on how injections have been going that perhaps it might. Not a win for everyone. $40 a year to have HIV prevention. So I don't know why they can't call this a vaccine, but they're just calling it a prevention drug. And they're saying you won't get HIV if you take this. It's only $40 a year for these injections. I would never do it, no matter what. You could be like, you're going to live the rest of your life in a rape pit where nobody will wear condoms. I'd still not take whatever this is. But I'm sure many people will. And we'll see what happens. And speaking of Gates, who is doing that HIV prevention drugs, he's also pledging $1 billion to fund, quote, fighting HIV, TB, and malaria, which means, actually, we can translate this. I mean, committing to eugenicist practices by depopulating people via injections that we say are for HIV, TB, and malaria, allegedly, ask your doctor or whatever other legal things. And so that's Gates. So $1 billion to evil. Sad to see. Let's all pray for people to wake up even more that you, as my dear friend Lori Wins just said, cannot inject health. It's very true. Cannot inject health. We also, speaking of injections, have this coming out that even since 2013, we've had those lipid nanoparticles that we've been talking about as part of the COVID vaccine, the alleged COVID vaccine. Those injections, the mRNA injections, have these lipid nanoparticles in them. And since 2013, they've known that those go to steroid-producing tissues. And I found this interesting because I'd never seen this specific take. I've talked about it going to the ovaries and to different glands and to the brain and to these different areas, to the pituitary gland and more, and all the damage it's been doing in that way. Allegedly, ask your doctor, do what's right for you. And I've never heard the steroid thing. And it's so fascinating to me because as you've maybe been following me all this time, and maybe we've been talking this whole time about my own health challenges, a lot of other people's health challenges. I was one of the first people to report on women's reproductive changes once that injection rolled out, including people who didn't take the injection. I was one of the only people talking about that, and was smeared even by really big alternative and conspiracy shows for it. So I was attacked even by supposedly my own for saying so. But I never heard the steroid connection. And now that I've heard that, it makes so much sense. Whatever is perhaps shedding and has been affecting people, even people who didn't take the injection, has been infecting those areas of our body. But also, I don't know if you've noticed that you've had more allergies or more reactivity towards things you were never reactive towards, or more sort of inflammation in general since all of this has gone down. I have. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with one of those things, whatever it is we're calling COVID, or the injections for whatever it is that COVID is. Sure that it's one of those things. This is the only thing that's changed in my life in the past, 5 years or so. And massive allergies and inflammation and reactivity and flare-ups and things like that. This now makes sense. If your body isn't able to produce or is imbalance in its production of steroids, then you would definitely have issues like this. So even that massive reaction I had not so long ago that took me down for a month when I had that huge anaphylaxis in response to antibiotics, right? Same. So really interesting to me, really interesting also, therefore, that I have never, so once I had that reaction to the antibiotics, I was taking all these steroids for off and on again for a month or so. And I was also taking whatever Allegra is or whatever Allerclear is, I think the off-brand name of it. I was taking 2 of those a day for over a month because of that reaction. And I stopped for a while and I was finally better, and it wasn't returning because it was for a while, right? I had to be very careful. And so it stopped returning. So I stopped the steroids, I stopped the allergen medication. Then some time went by and I took the allergy medication again because some of the sort of rashiness from that occurrence, that anaphylaxis over that month period seemed to be returning. Very, very slight, but just enough that I was like, you know what, I'll just take this just in case. And when I did, all these other symptoms that I have that I attribute to my autoimmune situation, they all went away. I was like, wait a second, why do I feel so much better? And now I've been taking one a day. And man, I don't want to take anything, especially not things that come from like the mainstream. I don't want to take that because who knows what the long term effects are. We'll have something for years and they'll be like, it's totally safe. Take all of the Benadryl you ever want. And then they're like, oh, whoops, Benadryl's kind of bad for you. Be careful. So, like, I don't want to take it, but I feel so much better when I do. I've never had allergies my whole life. I've had autoimmune reactions, never had allergies, ever. So pretty weird. This is interesting to me. I want to share it with you in case it helps you or someone you love kind of plug up any of your health holes and degradations. And if you feel comfortable trying that, maybe try it and just see what happens. I mean, it's not going to harm you too bad, right? At least to try. And so I'm not a doctor, talk to your doctor, blah, blah, blah. So interesting stuff. This I saw on a really good thread by Jicky Leaks. I've mentioned Jicky Leaks before. They have really good stuff on Twitter. They're worth following, but they also have often publish a lot of scientific studies. It's very helpful. So cool stuff there to know about at least. Speaking of injections again, here's actually a massive win. So you might be feeling down about everything we just mentioned, but here is a great thing. President Trump has adopted the Wakefield recommendations in separating MMR and calls for major reforms in the childhood vaccine schedule. This just is of a few days ago. And I want to emphasize here that people are freaking losing their minds about Tylenol. And I'm talking about conspiracy and alternative thinkers who should know better are losing their mind about Tylenol for some reason. They're like, oh, so we're just supposed to think that it's just Tylenol that causes autism and no one's going to care about the vaccines. And I'm like, no one said that. In fact, this whole time, if you've been watching my show, you know that we've had significant wins consistently in the whole entire vaccine world, the whole time. And now we have this massive win. And did any of the people who said that about the Tylenol and the autism and whatever, did any of them care about this or tell you about this win? No. And I always call attention to this because Black pill people refuse to see anything that could be good. The whole worldview of Black pilled and nihilism is that there is nothing that isn't controlled and that 100% of what you see is meant to elicit a certain response from you, which will make you controllable. But I'll tell you, that's actually the most controllable point of view. Because now they know you'll react to anything they say and they can say whatever they want and they know your response ahead of time. Don't be so predictable and don't be stupid. So this is a huge win. Separating out the MMR vaccine in itself will already prevent massive amounts of autism and toxicity and death and who knows what else. Just that. In a bombshell White House briefing, President Trump summarized his position on putting an end to the autism epidemic. Alongside all his senior health officials and advisors, Trump committed to identifying the causes of the current autism epidemic. So he did talk about stopping acetaminophen for vaccine-related fever and minimizing the use in pregnant women. He didn't say this is the cause. He literally, and I've had people on my show who have autistic children who they watch their child go from brilliant, verbal, active, mentally stimulated, consistently engaged. Then they got an injection and then they were screaming for 30 days and never stopped. And those people who have been on my show and told this story said they wish to God they would have understood Tylenol because they gave them Tylenol thinking it might help, and it made it worse. So no one's saying it causes it. If you think that, I don't know why, except that bots have infiltrated your world because Trump didn't say it and no one said it. They said the truth, which is that it is not safe to administer Tylenol to pregnant people. That's been true for my whole life. way before anyone ever thought of Trump, way before we had any of this, way before COVID, way before this division, way before the internet even. That's been true. I have known that. How come you haven't? I don't know. It's always been true. Definitely don't give it for vaccine injury. Definitely don't take it while you're pregnant. I've told anyone who will listen for years now. My students would ask me, like, what drugs are the most dangerous drugs? And I would say Tylenol, heroin. I don't remember the other one actually, but I had a third one at some point. And they would be like, Tylenol? Like, yeah, Tylenol kills more people than any over-the-counter drug ever has. Allegedly, like, look at those studies or whatever the stuff. So to mention that you maybe should be careful with it is just smart. In this same exact time, we had this huge, huge, huge thing. We're going to separate out the MMR vaccines and also reduce childhood vaccine schedule in general. And people were like, Tylenol? Like, just ignored it. Ignored it. And they're going to spread out the childhood vaccines according to the common practices of giving too many too soon, break up the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine into single shots as recommended in 1998 by Dr. Wakefield, delay the first hepatitis B vaccine until 12 years of age, minimum. I mean, there's no reason you should be injecting that into infants, which is what they do. Eliminate the mercury preservative, eliminate the adjuvant aluminum. All of this is massive and huge and good, and all anyone took from it is Tylenol. It drives me a little bit insane. It drives me insane because the people spreading this are also in this general community. I get shut up and silenced and shadow banned more than any of them because I notice things like this and talk about it, and they don't. It's ridiculous. So celebrate that if you're intelligent. I will, because it's fantastic. And if you're not and you need to just like harp about Tylenol for some reason, I guess continue being a controlled sheep. I have no idea why this is so like immensely affecting people. It's crazy. Here, this is the latest update is in 2025. Go figure, because they have to clarify some things. But this is an old known thing. Acetaminophen. This is from the NIH, National Library of Medicine. Acetaminophen is one of the most commonly used analgesics and antipyretics, although relatively safe, by the way, in one of the first sentences. Acetaminophen poisoning causes hepatic necrosis. When this first started and people were like, Tylenol's great, I said, well, no, it's not. It's a hepatotoxin. It's toxic to your liver. They're like, no, it's not. It's over the counter. Well, most over the counter things are toxic in some way. Tylenol's the most toxic. People accidentally kill themselves with Tylenol because they don't realize how deadly it is. There's no major warning on it. There's not like, hey, by the way, if you take too many of these, just buy a few, you're gonna die and no one will be able to save you. There's no warning like that. Then you get a cold remedy that has Tylenol. You're taking Tylenol in a pill form. You're taking some other thing that happens to have Tylenol. And now all of a sudden your liver fails. Right after that sentence, it says acetaminophen toxicity. That's the non-brand name for Tylenol. Acetaminophen toxicity is the second most common cause of liver transplant worldwide. Second of all things in the world is Tylenol. I was told this since I was a kid. My mom was a nurse. I guess she was an honest and intelligent one. So she was like, hey, yeah, take it, if you need it, which I didn't. I never took drugs. I always hated them. But anyway, take it if you need it, but be careful. All the other ones, relatively, you could take accidentally too many, you'd be pretty fine. But you take too many Tylenol, you're going to die. Be careful. Always known that. I'll stop now. I just can't believe that people are now just chugging Tylenol to be like, yeah, Trump. And I'm like, I guess he's brilliant at killing off the people who don't support him. Because all he has to do is mention a thing. Trump could be like, whatever you guys do, don't hack your head off with a machete. And people would be like, and just start doing it because they're insane people. They didn't ask a question. They didn't go look. There's all these people being like, I'm a nurse and I love Tylenol. I'm like, well, clearly you're not a nurse or you suck. Because it's irresponsible to be like, I'm a nurse and I'll take all the Tylenol I want without saying, and by the way, it kills your liver. Second leading cause of liver transplant worldwide. Such a dangerous drug. If it's recognized and treated within the first 8 hours, it's relatively low chances that you'll die. That's a quick 8 hours. How far are you from care? How soon do you recognize you've overdosed? How soon do you put together that it was from Tylenol? Anyways, sometimes I get so tired. So we'll move on from that. Hopefully you're not taking a bunch of Tylenol. Hopefully, like me, you don't even have it in your house because there's plenty of other things that work better or just as good, and you really don't need it. Former FBI Director James Comey is indicted, sparking Pam Bondi, who everyone hates, to say no one is above the law, which is great if it's true. And it's great because he does seem to have conspired against our political processes, our elections, our sitting president, and all of that seems like treason to me. So it'd be really interesting if we started executing people for treason. One of the punishments legally is execution. We'll see what happens. I call it a win. Trump is also launching an investigation into why his escalator and teleprompter stopped working, as well as his microphone. He was at the UN. He was discussing many really amazing things, again, that I count as mostly wins, the things that he talked about and what he mentioned to this group of absolutely self-involved, corrupt people. Not that he's not. He just happens to say things that I think are amazing to say out loud. But he had that happen. So as soon as they walked in, the escalator stopped. As he's getting up, he's talking, his teleprompter goes out. Finally, things are going again or whatever. His microphone goes out. And he's like, well, this is pretty clear. I mean, like all of these things happen to me and no one else. So obviously it's intentional. And it is. These people are children. They're throwing a tantrum, just like most of the people online most of the time. And they can't handle, themselves. They can't take responsibility for themselves. And so they're going to attack people. They won't do it to their face, because they're mostly weak. They're mostly really, really weak narcissists or narcissistic type behaviors. And so they won't say anything to your face and they won't come up to you and actually be a real human about it. But they'll like subtweet or they'll like be passive aggressive or they'll sabotage your escalator. So he says the Secret Service is involved. I don't know if it is or not, but pretty wild there at the UN. So one of the things he said that I thought was cool is he said, quote, "The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them." That's pretty clear, pretty bold, very true, and something no one else says. So I'll call that a win. I'm enjoying that kind of truth talk to the face of the powerful of the world. Trump also unveiled the U.S. plan to end Gaza conflict to Arab and Muslim leaders. And so the proposal seeks to end the conflict urgently, as Trump noted Israel's growing global isolation with each passing day. So I always point out does not seem to me like he instantly just does whatever Israel wants. It often seems to me that he seems to, perhaps when he most needs to seem to Israel, to keep Israel happy, and then seems to work on the other side of things whenever he can. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think he's just the most amazing peacekeeper in the world or anything. I just see evidence of that. And I always point it out. And this is one of those moments. So interesting to me, at least. It's a very specific plan. No new settlements, release all hostages, all the same kind of stuff. And you could look at it from the other way too. And you could say, well, he just seems to stall by saying things like that while Israel continues its rollout of complete and total domination of Palestinian humanity. So yeah, you could look both ways. We don't know for sure, although a lot of people are very sure that they know for sure. They're the most dangerous kind of people. So right after that, he says very clearly he will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. So Israel's like, oh, we're going in. This is all ours. We've got these tanks. Like, you're done. And Trump said, no, I won't allow it. So it doesn't seem like someone who just bows down and does Israel's wishes. Again, you could be playing the 5D chess, playing both sides of whatever you think is happening, sure. But it at least is not just the rollover, do what I say. And that seems clear the entire time so far. So very interesting to me to notice those things. France recognizes the state of Palestine right after Britain formally recognizes the state, along with Australia, Canada, and Portugal. These are our traditional allies. More so, I would say, than Israel, officially at least, right? So interesting stuff that they're all recognizing the state. I think it's good. I think it should have happened 40, 50 years ago, but here it is happening now. It's better late than never, and we can call that a win, call it a celebration. If you're into that kind of thing. Microsoft has blocked Israeli military from using some Azure services. This comes a week after we covered here on the Winning Report last week that the underground cable was cut that served Israel with the Azure services, which is some kind of cloud computing AI type service complement. And so Microsoft's now officially blocking them. So you have to wonder if that cutting of that cable was Microsoft saying, we don't want to serve you anymore, but also not taking full responsibility. And now they're taking responsibility. So maybe something shifted in that. Maybe it's some of what we just talked about, where the whole world seems to be acknowledging Palestine slowly but surely. Maybe some of those things. And so, yeah, they were saying that the IDF was misusing it against Palestine, and that they were using too much and other things. So who knows what the actual reasoning is? But that's what they're saying. So, I don't know, is it a win or not? We'll see. Spain will join Italy in sending a military warship to protect Gaza, the aid flotilla, which is another Greta Thunberg attempt to reach Gaza and bring supplies and also draw attention to it. And so Spain and Italy are riding alongside of her, because like last time, as you remember, she was taken in and they were it was hilarious and adorable at the same time. And so now we've got like real military battleships that are going to be escorting Greta and her flotilla into Gaza. So huge escalation, actually. Massive escalation. The military is heading straight for Gaza from the other side. Israel has definitely some eyes and some pressure on it. So we can hope that this keeps them from, pulling out their final battle plan, as they seem to have been indicating they were doing, to just do the last sort of let's wipe everyone off the map in Palestine. Maybe this will actually work with all of this happening at once. We could call it a win in the meantime. Peter Thiel, moving on to some AI news specifically, says that fearing or regulating AI would hasten the coming of the Antichrist. So very interesting. I really want to hear this lecture. This is actually what drove me to find other lectures of his last week, the week before. You may have heard me talking how I went through a massive cognitive dissonance episode of not knowing who I was and being somewhat depressed, emotionally stressed, because I heard Peter Thiel talk for a few hours and couldn't find a single thing I didn't agree with him on. And so I was kind of concerned for myself, and I still am. Well, this is the talk I was actually trying to listen to and couldn't find, because you can't get access to it yet. If you have access to it, please tell me. I would love to listen to it. This is a talk he is still giving. It's every Monday for 4 weeks, and it's a series, so they all go together. And it's promoted by a Christian organization that is called Acts 17, that is specifically looking at that part of the Bible and promoting the content of that part of the Bible. And they asked Peter Thiel to talk, and they're promoting this talk, and the topic is the Antichrist. So in that, apparently what we can know is that he says that regulating artificial intelligence would hasten the Antichrist. He says he ties AI's unchecked growth to a one-world government, warning it could form a totalitarian regime embodying the Antichrist as described in Christian teachings. Thiel, a self-proclaimed devout Christian, told the Hoover Institution the Antichrist probably represents a great humanitarian, citing texts like the Book of Revelation and dystopian novels like The Lord of the World. Um, and he warns that AI-driven risks, including autonomous killer robots and bioweapons, could trigger Armageddon unless technological progress is unrestrained. So he's saying if you restrain it and regulate it too much, and some people get some really powerful versions of it and other people don't, then that's when we get the Antichrist situation, end of the world sort of thing. I have said much the same thing. And this is part of what he was talking about in one of the talks I listened to him, which was also not about the Antichrist and AI, but he talked about it in almost in this exact same way. So maybe I do already know what this talk is about. Maybe I did hear enough, but really interesting. Definitely blew my mind that we're making the same argument. And yeah, so a lot of the Antichrist stuff is interesting too. People are expecting a person, and he's talking about how it could be a one world government or, totalitarian unipolar world order. And Gary Wayne, who's a biblical scholar and wrote the Genesis 6 conspiracy and has been on the show many, many times, he might agree also. But when we were talking about it, he talked about how the Bible doesn't actually say there's a person or a being that is the Antichrist. It talks about Antichrist almost like there's plural, or like it is more like a mindset or energetic sort of movement or alignment. And so Teal sort of tapped into that same angle too. So really interesting. And, again, the automatic reactionary point of view of the alternative thinker and the conditioned conspiracy theorist would say, of course he would say that because he wants AI to become so massive and so powerful, blah, blah, blah. But his argument is actually correct, that a powerful AI is not a threat to humanity if everyone has access to it. The end. So pretty interesting stuff. Much less heady AI and tech related news. ChatGPT is offering users a personalized daily briefing. So if you didn't know, ChatGPT does learn who you are. It learns what you like. It remembers you. It treats you differently based on how it has learned you like to be treated or how you treat it. And so it becomes very personalized very quickly. And now it will curate news items for you if you want it to. So this is ChatGPT Pulse, if you like it. So that's fun if you're into that sort of thing. Digital ID cards will stop illegal migrants slipping into the shadow economy under new government plans. This is for the UK. This is the Prime Minister saying that. It says the Prime Minister was initially skeptical of digital IDs, but has been convinced by senior government figures and world leaders, including President Macron. So you're like, oh, he said he wasn't into it to get elected, but now that the one world government has pressured him, he wants the digital IDs. I was talking to Eyes and Ears on Rumble on his live stream this last Monday, I believe, and we were talking about this, and I was saying, I'm not that concerned about the digital ID. Like, frankly, we've got these phones and we've got these IDs that are already enhanced, and we've had passports for years, and all of these things are traceable, and all of these things are have been being used digitally more and more and connected to your biometrics and all of these sorts of things. Not too concerned about that. I said the thing that I'm concerned about is if it ever becomes something that has to be implanted in you, or that you are absolutely required to carry at all times, no matter where you are, what you're doing or something, that would be much more troublesome to me. And it's not that I'm saying yay digital IDs. I think they're awful. I think they're inevitable at this point. And I could be wrong. And by all means, resist it with everything you've got in you, if that's what you're into. I just am not as worried about it as I am something that would be implanted within you. So that's what we were talking about. You could go check that talk out also on his Eyes and Ears channel on Rumble if you want to. Pretty good discussion we had there. Secret Service dismantles telecom threat in New York City. This is one of those things for some reason no one's talking about, and I know what I think is happening. It says as 150 world leaders arrived in Manhattan for the UN General Assembly, the U.S. Secret Service dismantled a telecom network across New York. The system included over 300 SIM servers with more than 100,000 SIM cards located within 35 miles of the United Nations building. This network operated as part of a Secret Service investigation into telecommunications threats against government officials. The servers simulated multiple cell phones to generate mass calls and texts that overload local networks and transmit encrypted messages for criminal use. Matt McCool, is that a real name? McCool. So cool. Special agent in charge of the Secret Service's New York field office stated it can't be understated what this system is capable of doing. It can take down cell towers so that no longer can people communicate, right? Blah, blah, blah. Agent seized servers and SIM cards during raids, with the system able to send 30 million text messages per minute. McCool indicated nation-state actors from specific countries used the network to send encrypted messages to organized crime groups, cartels, and terrorist organizations. Forensic analysis requires examining communications from 100,000 SIM cards to identify endpoints. Operation involved millions in hardware. Additional cards ready for deployment. Could there be others, he said, that exist in other U.S. cities? Yes, there are. In fact, we've been hearing more about this being dismantled in many cities across the nation. And I think it's part of the realization that we've been invaded long ago and that foreign hostile nations have already had too much access to us. And I'll say that it's possible that one of those foreign hostile nations is Israel. Israel, as you remember last week, I just talked about how 250 of our representatives were in Israel, and Netanyahu said to them, "You have a piece of Israel right in your pocket in every one of your phones." And I said, I think that's a threat. I think that's a specific, directed threat to remind them that he can explode their phones just like he exploded the pagers of the radios in Lebanon or Syria or wherever that was. I can't remember, earlier this year. So this stinks of similar types of things where we're realizing exactly how infiltrated some of these entities might be in our network. So it gives me heart to recognize that it is potentially true that we are finally being protected from some of these threats. It's possible that's not what's happening. That's just what I'm hoping this indicates. And so we'll call it a potential huge win. Musk's XAI is approved for use across US government agencies. This is Grok, or the XAI platform. They've signed a deal with General Services Administration, allowing federal agencies to acquire its AI models at a discounted rate. They can purchase it until March 2027. And it's interesting too, because people have this whole thing like Elon and Trump, and they're fighting or they're not fighting or whatever's happening. And the whole time I've been like, I don't think they're actually fighting. I think it's just a front to let him kind of get out of the public light a little bit more. But this may be an indication that I'm right. And either way, AI has been officially enacted in so many ways in the government. And so hopefully Peter Thiel's right. China's Alibaba AI announces a partnership with NVIDIA in order to focus expanding its global data network. So unfortunate, in my opinion, that NVIDIA is partnering with anything out of China, especially when it has to do with expanding a worldwide network. At the same time, I guess perhaps we have to see what happens. I don't know. Over 3 years, they're going to open centers in Brazil, France, and the Netherlands, expanding the global reach. It's going to be like the battle of the global AIs at some point. It's going to be so wild. Oh, but we're here for it. It's what we were born for, right? China also plans to build a naval Great Wall to fend off 1,000 drone swarm attacks. So they're building a laser, AI, sensor, satellite, advanced weapons network, like hypersonic missiles and microwaves and more, that will be able to intercept even thousands of drones at a time. And they're calling it an electronic Great Wall defense system. I just often don't believe them. I think they're going to try to do that, and I think they might make some headway and probably not get that far. Not that well, at least. A little bit closer to home, tech news. YouTube admits to having censored people during COVID. Oh, you think? So, I mean, there was no question. We were under any delusion that that was not happening. If you're here, you knew that already. But now they're admitting it. They're saying, yeah, we did it. And by the way, it was for political reasons. They're saying that they're going to then potentially allow some creators to rejoin And I'm like, well, I did rejoin and you didn't care. So uh, and also that doesn't give me back my many, many thousands of subscribers that you probably don't have any record on. I mean, I'm probably not even in your system anymore, right? So it's not like they're saying, oh, you can have your channel back. Although some people they gave them back. Not me. I don't know. Oh, so much worse, apparently, right? Not me. Um, and if they did, would any of those people even still be allowed to see me anyway? Would it matter? Like, can you undo the damage you did? Since they admitted this, am I allowed to sue them for all of my lost income? No, probably not. So it's still bullshit. It's still way too little, way too late. But I don't know if some people get to get back in and have any sort of luck with that. That's great. It's just so disappointing that nobody has ever cared. So even though that happened and they're saying some creators get to come back now, they still have banned Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes. They both tried to come back and they both were told that they can't do so. Their new channels were banned. And so they say that that's because they haven't yet rolled out their pilot program and they're not approving people yet. And they have to figure out what they want to do. And so nobody gets to make a new account yet. Okay, YouTube. Control freaks. The TikTok algorithm is to be retrained on US user data under the Trump deal. This is, allegedly one of the most dangerous infiltrations of all is the Chinese app TikTok controlling the minds of our youth. No small feat, no small beans. It's a big, bad threat. So I think a lot of people think this is like, I don't know, government overreach or interference or something, but we're in a really weird world. And if someone can protect us from China and their algorithms and their mind control, then good. We should probably celebrate that win. So if this is actually going to happen, it's a win. They say it is. They say it's a done deal. They say China's agreed. Cool. I'll take it. For the sake of our children, I'll take it. New MI6 dark web portal launched to recruit spies for UK security. I don't really get it. They say it's Silent Courier dark web portal. Launched September 19th, of course it was. Targets covert recruitment of spies globally, prioritizing insiders in countries like Russia. What? Like, how would this work? You're like, come apply to be a spy on our app. Like, your government will never know, we swear. What? It says it has dark web anonymity and can access instructions on MI6 YouTube channel. So you can find out how to apply to be a spy on their YouTube channel and then apply on their dark web portal. Got it. Backed by the UK's largest defense investment since the Cold War, Silent Courier aligns with heightened national security efforts. I don't think that's true. How can you say you have heightened national security efforts, but also allow anyone at all to take a boat and just land on your shores and now live there and get paid and get like put up in hotels? And I don't believe you. I don't really know what this is about, but it's definitely probably not what they say it is. Also, in weird tech news, Albania's new AI-generated minister makes their first address to parliament. This is a fully AI thing that has given itself an image and a body on screen so that it can act things out as though it were a person talking to you. The world's first AI government minister defended her role as, quote, not here to replace people, but to help them, quote. Her name is Diella, if that's how you pronounce it. And it was appointed by Prime Minister Edi Rama last week. So this has apparently actually been an AI support system in their parliament since early this year. They just sort of like upgraded it to be its own minister. I don't know what that actually holds water as far as like voting or other things in their parliament. I don't know how their parliament works, but it is definitely a first for mankind and very creepy. So that's happening in Albania. Al Gore's desperate for attention given all those actually relevant things that are happening. And so in order to try to remain relevant, he's going to use his AI system to track sources of soot pollution. He's going to use 2,500 global cities and 300 satellites and 30,000 ground sensors to tell you where illegal soot is being pushed into the atmosphere. Good job, Al Gore. Now, speaking of climate change, Trump at the UN again said, quote, climate change is the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world. And he's right. So that's pretty cool. Jeez. Al Gore's rolling in his AI drone swarm operation. Speaking of washed out politicians, Hillary Clinton says on MSNBC, quote, we have got to stop demonizing each other. We've got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating, guys. And then in the very next breath says, the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, certain ideology, is just doing such damage. Bitch, didn't you just say we have to stop demonizing each other, dividing ourselves, pointing fingers, and then you turned around and said white men who are Christian and Republican want to turn the clock back and that it's damaging everyone? Yeah. But people will only listen or pay attention to the first part. They'll be like, Hillary Clinton calls for no violence. Hillary Clinton's a lady. People with boobs and vaginas are really peaceful. Didn't you know? And then she turns around and makes war on Republican white Christian men. Pretty unbelievable. Actually, very believable. She's always been this hypocritical and evil. So not surprised at all. She did have like an exceptional amount of face work done. Like her hair, her face, all of this is radically different. Liposuction, or maybe it's Ozempic, massive amounts of makeup, just an extreme amount of hair and face and makeup work. None of this hair could be real. There's no way. So that's Hillary Clinton these days. An ICE facility, unfortunately, was shot up. I know we're all supposed to think it's a false flag. It's possible that it was. It's also so utterly believable because there's so many attacks on ICE agents and ICE facilities that have been very specifically fomented by Antifa and Trans-Tifa furry communities on Reddit and Discord. You can't deny it. So this could definitely be a false flag for sure, just like anything that ever happens in the world. And also, you can't say that all of those things are. ICE agents are getting hit by cars, dragged under cars, having rocks and things thrown at them, having their entire agencies like barricaded and them locked inside, being attacked left and right all over the country multiple times a week. So it's not surprising that anti-ICE people are shooting also. Not surprising because that's also happened before. So is it a false flag? Maybe. Does it need to be? No. All of that other stuff is also already happening. You don't need any more if you're just trying to cause division or, cause people to think this group is violent. Well, that group is violent. Leftist, Antifa, Trans-Tifa, furry, super violent, hyper violent, ready to kill for what they say is their own protection, but is actually just random political things that CNN ramped them up on. So yeah, some people got shot. Unfortunately, they only shot detainees. They only shot the people that couldn't have chosen to be somewhere else if they wanted to. And I'm sure they blame ICE for that too, right? Well, you're the reason they got shot. No, you are. You literally are. This bullet thing too, so the bullets that were used had anti-ICE engraved on them, and people are like, well, that's really convenient that all these bullets are engraved. Well, it's also in their culture. You can go find millions of posts about it and how to do it, and they're all Antifa, Trans-Tifa leftists. So yeah, it would be convenient if this was a strange story that didn't fit. But instead, it fits perfectly and is exactly what we have mountains of evidence for. I get really tired of people thinking every single possible thing is fake, and a false flag. It's very much not critical thinking to think that at every single juncture. So pretty sad. The person then killed themselves. Again, people are like, oh, that's convenient. And like, well, yeah, I also know plenty, and everybody knows plenty of examples of people actually killing themselves after they kill other people in all sorts of crimes all over the place that aren't false flags. So like people do that. People do that. So I think it's just exactly what it is. Someone shooting at an ICE facility. So speaking of, Trump signs an executive order targeting domestic terrorism networks after Texas ICE shooting. And again, people will be like, see, problem, reaction, solution. It's like, but the problem has existed for years and years, and we just got to not even a solution that really doesn't do anything to anyone and is hard to enforce. I just don't think that's what's happening. Antifa is a domestic terror organization. It fits every single definition of a domestic terrorist organization. They literally want to use political violence in order to force their way on the world. That is terrorism. If you like Antifa, that's okay. And you like a terrorist organization, like that is just the definitions. These is just the facts. So that's happening. And I hope it works. I hope that it takes Antifa apart. I hope that they're not able to function anymore in this way. I hope they're not able to just, it's all kids under 25, dude. I mean, like they're literally, their brains aren't done. They don't even know what they're doing. They feel very strongly about things they don't understand. You can't understand it all when you're under 25. And like you still might retain some of those beliefs afterwards, but almost always by the time you're a thoughtful person with a fully developed brain, you start moving away from all of that. It's very rare that you don't. So like, man, have you seen it? It's all kids. It's just kids who are like throwing things at officers and LARPing as revolutionaries. It's really sad. So, but again, it's not the kids that they're after. It's not even the people who are, running up on ICE facilities that they're after in this. It's the actual funding mechanisms, which are international, which are likely the Soroses and the Klaus Schwabs and the WEFs of the world. Like it's knowable who this benefits, and it isn't you and me and our constructive, productive, community-based safety. However you want to describe that. And so that's that. So U.S. Attorney for Northern Texas says Dallas ICE sniper had left letters stating, quote, yes, it was just me and my brain, and good luck with the digital footprint. I think they're just saying no one worked with me on this. Even if they did, you want to protect your friends, right? And good luck with the digital footprint is like we've learned already, right? From like Charlie Kirk and different sorts of things, like how not to leave this digital footprint for you to incriminate us with. So I really think that's all that means and makes sense. Very intentional. It's just sad too, because like this person probably wanted to die for various reasons, because life is unsatisfying, because nobody gives them attention, because nobody has enough love, because all of our media points us into self-obsessed, nihilistic, destructive loops, because we are not connected to ourselves, to the earth, to each other, to our spiritual higher, power. And so you do want to die. Right? Like that's an empty, horrible existence. And so you think, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to go take out these horrible bastards. I'm going to make a win for the world, and then I'll kill myself. So I'm going to die anyway. And so it's really even more sad when you think about that. So sending love to that kid's soul as he has moved on from this world. And if you feel so inclined, you can do the same. The RAF air crew in Britain has won a battle for vegan uniforms. So now they get to wear vegan boots and berets. Isn't that great? I have no problem with real leather. Animals are going to die either way, and using their leather is cool. If you're just purely killing them only for the leather, that'd be an absurd use of an animal. You should at least be eating them and their organs and then using them for leather. But vegan's cool. You could have vegan booze. Nothing wrong with that. Good on you guys. Hegseth has ordered a rare, urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. The Pentagon has called military officials from various countries to a meeting in Virginia. The gathering is unusual as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered hundreds of U.S. generals and admirals to attend on short notice without a clear reason. This has led to confusion and concern, particularly following the Trump administration's recent firings of many senior military leaders. The situation raises questions among attendees and observers. This is a developing story. Super weird. This is the weirdest news I think I've almost ever covered on this show. So a bunch of international military leaders and generals are being called to one location physically in person, as well as all of these other generals. It makes me wonder if it has to do with AI. It makes me wonder if it has to do with what a lot of people have said is actually an alien ship coming to us via Atlas 31 or whatever it's called. Or if we're meant to think something like that, because it is ultra rare. It is very unlikely. It also seems silly to get that many important people in one place at one time. But who knows? We'll see what else we get to learn about this. I'm fascinated, and I can't wait to find out. Poland has reportedly considered granting asylum to the Nord Stream bombing suspect, who is a Ukrainian military official who intentionally did that as an act of sabotage, as a false flag, in order to progress a war against Russia that is unjust from the side of the Ukraine, not from the side of Russia. So a war crime, a war criminal. And so Poland's going to grant them asylum. Wild stuff. Poland, you're not doing so great. Not a good look. Slovenia imposes a travel ban on Netanyahu, which is a European Union first. I'm going to guess that Netanyahu was never going to Slovenia, so it really doesn't matter. It's more of a, just posturing sort of thing, like, you can't come over here. Like, doesn't actually matter, but I guess cool for them. That's neat. Good on you guys. Trump has signed a gold card executive order expediting H-1B visas for a fee of up to $2 million and a minimum of $100,000 in annual sponsorship for any applicant. So I love this. I love this because the whole thing with H-1B is like, well, we really need people because we don't have any here. And so we have to get people from India or from China or from wherever in the world. And so you have to let us. And so you're like, okay, well, here's this special visa. If you can't find anyone to hire here in the US, you can bring someone over. And then they lay off all of their US workers and they just import a bunch of people from India because they're cheaper. And so it's like, well, then you're abusing it. It wasn't actually that you needed these people. It was that you wanted to save money and import them over here. And so this solves that problem. It no longer saves you money if you have to pay $100,000 a year just to have them here, or up to $2 million to get them here. Now you have to really actually need that person for them to come. So people who were hoping to come on their H-1B visas are mad because they're probably not coming anymore. It's probably very few companies and organizations that are going to fork over that much money to get somebody here from some other country when they could just hire someone here. Which is what we want. We want to invest in our own people in our own space and keep ourselves upright and strong. That is the goal. So I love it. I think it's a huge win. It's brilliant. Let's talk about the movie Snake Eyes. I haven't watched this. I don't know exactly what happens. Reportedly, there is someone in this movie named Charlie Kirkland. Reportedly, that person is a politician and they get assassinated by being shot in the neck. There is also someone who is not the assassin, who is also in the movie named Tyler the, I think, Destroyer or something. Tyler the whatever, killer or something like that. And he's like a wrestler or something. And so people are like, oh, Charlie Kirkland and Tyler and assassination and shot in the neck. Like, what the hell? Then at some point in the movie, one of the wrestling events or whatever it is happens on September 10th. So people are like, what the? And they're like freaking out. And I'm like, those are all weird things for sure. Those are weird things. And people are like, that's too many coincidences. This is foreknowledge. This is predictive programming. This is what this is. And I've talked about this for the entire time you could have ever heard me talking, which is that there is definitely predictive programming in things. There's definitely things where they're telling you what actually happens, but pretending that it's a fictional show. That's absolutely something that happens much more often. What happens is a normal human occurrence that's been happening since way before we had technology, way before we had the internet, just in books, just in letter writing, just in other weird synchronicities, which is indicating that humans are connected on a consciousness level. Another indication of this is that Wordles and crossword puzzles become easier to solve the more people solve them. The exact same crossword, when it first hits people's hands and eyes, is much more difficult to solve than a week later. That exact same crossword is now way easier for people of the same intelligence levels and experience in the world and vocabulary and all of that to solve. That's because more people know the answer. This is morphogenetic fields. This is a realm of science that people are super confused about and refuse to touch, but has been proven over and over and over and over and over again. Here's another version of that. Before 9/11 happened, there's all sorts of art, music, books, movies, shows that seem to predict 9/11. They say the date, they have the Twin Towers, they have all these sorts of stuff. You've seen it all. If you haven't seen it, that's crazy. There's plenty of it out there. It's been happening since 2003, I think, that people are like, look at this. But also, before that, if you thought all of that could be constructed by the people who planned and carried out 9/11, you thought all of that could be? Well, then how is this true? For the week or more leading up to 9/11, there was a massive increase in dreams about planes crashing into buildings, about terrorists, about planes being hijacked. My sister had one of them 2 days before 9/11 happened. I know she didn't know consciously what was about to happen. None of us consciously knew. All of us knew unconsciously, subconsciously. At the collective conscious level, we knew that event was so big and the whole world was so connected to it that it rippled out in time. And so long before it happened, we were telling each other this is going to happen. And then it happened. And then afterwards, same thing. We keep telling each other this happened, this happened, this happened. We did the same thing with Charlie Kirk. We did the same thing with the Titanic. Anything that you can easily think of that has happened in history, we did this with. It is documented so thoroughly in so many ways. I've done 16 shows on it at least. And still when this happens, people are like, see, they knew, they planned it all. And I'm like, probably not. Did they know? Did they plan it all? Yeah, maybe. Obviously, that could be true. Is this evidence of that? No. If there were an actual thing that was like what happened, there was a guy who became famous from going to college campuses and trying to argue with people and debate with people, and he was also super spiritual, and he was also really well loved, and he also got a president that no one liked elected, and then he got shot, and that was a movie, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, now we got something. That's too many coincidences to avoid. This is not very many coincidences, actually, not given the realm of human history and what we've shown that humans do. So I call this very interesting. I think it's so cool people find things like this and bring it up. And I think it's really, really not the most intelligent choice to try to use this as evidence for anything except of our amazing consciousness. This is actually the coolest part of the story. It's way cooler to talk about than whether or not like this means the Illuminati did it, you know? Way cooler. It's way cooler to recognize like that's actually the huge win in this story is that your consciousness time travels. that your consciousness cannot be contained in this weird space we're in. Your consciousness is beyond that and above that. Your consciousness travels through that back and forth. That's incredible. You're a superhuman, superpowered being. Don't waste that wonder on this, please. Or do it. I don't care, but I'll just let you know. Quite likely not what's happening. So, yeah, and if you didn't know that, this would seem impossible. But once you know that, you're like, "Yep, we did it again. Yep, we did it again. Oh, we keep doing it. We're never gonna stop doing it." Thank God. So, pretty cool, actually. The House has voted 310 to 58 to condemn Charlie Kirk's assassination, honor his legacy, and denounce political violence. Seems like a simple series of things to do. Like, do you denounce assassination? Yes. Do you want to honor the legacy of this person? Sure. I mean, why not? Whose legacy wouldn't we honor, right? And do you want to denounce political violence? Of course. But 58 people did not vote for that. Yeah, imagine how miserable you have to be to not vote for that. So crazy. So that happened. So, overall, we won. It's gonna condemn assassination, condemn political violence, and honor the legacy of Charlie Kirk. It seems good. Seems like good things. Unfortunately, we have another teacher who is facing discipline after playing the Charlie Kirk assassination video in class, this time in the United States. So 2 that I know of. One was in Canada, which we covered last week, and then one is here in the US in California. So pretty disgusting. Again, I can't even imagine what kind of demon-possessed person you have to be to show children murder. Snuff films is what it's called. This is snuff film. This is stuff people used to have to pay to find before Faces of Death, right? And now they're just playing it to children. Children. It doesn't even matter what age, right? It doesn't matter at all, but the one in Canada was 9-year-olds. Worse, I mean, like, if it was 18-year-olds, I'd be like, at least they're that old. They've got a good series of experiences under their belt. Maybe this won't traumatize them as deeply. The younger you go, the worse it gets, but any age is too young. So pretty messed up. Glad they're facing discipline. That is the win in this situation. And that it also sparks the conversation of like, hey, what's wrong with people? why are we letting people be like this and act like this? Who are these teachers, right? Right. Also on the Charlie Kirk assassination, Tyler Robinson has been appointed a public defender. Catherine Nestor, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for anyone who has to take on a case like this that's so highly politicized. No matter what your personal opinions are, it's going to be a difficult case to have no bias in. Very difficult. So I wish her well, and I hope people don't take it out on her because it's not really her choice. She's a public defender. You just get assigned. And I called it, told you, I said, Erica Kirk's going to come out and on national TV, she's going to forgive the killer. And she did. I am psychic, but this wasn't me being psychic. This was me understanding how Christians work. If you've never known real, actual, dyed in the wool, full-on fundamentalist Christians, then you don't understand. But if you know them, you know the first thing they'll do is forgive that guy. You might think that's weak or silly. I find it to be one of the strongest things you can do. The hardest thing you can do, the hardest thing I've ever done emotionally is forgive the people who intentionally harmed me in horrifying ways. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. It's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done for myself and my self-growth. Forgiveness is something I preach now, and it is one of the most effective ways to transform your life. So she did it because God commanded it, but she will still reap the benefits of it. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of people don't. I think Trump actually came out at this memorial, which is 300,000 strong, huge turnout. And he was like, basically, he was like, I don't forgive the guy. Like, screw that guy. I don't know what his exact words were, right? But it was basically that. And he's like, I know Charlie's mad at me right now for saying that. That's pretty, very Trump thing to say, but a lot of people won't forgive him. But I knew she would, and she did. And yeah, huge turnout at this event. If you don't like funerals or memorials, then maybe you won't like this. I don't love the over the top, like really I don't know, exorbitant kind of like patriotic sort of stuff. But I did want to hear what people had to say about this. I'm interested in the whole event and topic, right? So I watched a lot of it actually. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to memorialize people. Again, whatever you think did or did not happen, there's still a man who's dead. Well, a lot of people don't believe that, but that seems pretty obvious to me. And so many people loved him. So 300,000 people filled the stadium, and there was more people outside. And then you can't even count the number of people who are watching worldwide, millions. And at this point, many, many, many millions more, I'm sure. So that was pretty powerful to witness too. And I actually really liked Ben Carson, what he had to say, both because he apparently thinks like me in terms of, what time did he die? 1224. Okay, I'm going to go look at the 1224 verses of the Bible. And he looked at, I can't remember, I want to say it was like Acts 1224, but whatever it was, the verse was like, though the corn shall fall and rot, the fruit will grow from there. So, I'm totally butchering it, but it was basically like, you died, but look at the fruit that you're growing out of that death, right? Something may fall and may die, but it actually breeds the next fruit that will rise. And he's not wrong. Like if you wanted to pin a conspiracy on this, the best one you could go with is they wanted to reignite Christian nationalism. I am not against Christian nationalism. I find Christianity to be a pretty good framework for life. And I think being a nationalist, being proud of your country or wanting your country to be better all of the time is not a bad stance to take. So I find a lot of people are really deeply against it. There's a lot of potentials of horrible misuse of power in that, and all of this sort of theocracy and all of those sort of things, but not really. Like I think we're way past those times. But if you wanted to pin a conspiracy on this, that would be the best one, as I've been saying the whole time, is that they wanted to reignite this Christian nationalist movement, because that's what it's done. I mean, people who are atheists have converted, have gone to church, are praying, believe in God now. People who were sort of Christians but didn't really care, never went to church, have been renewed, and they're going back to church, and they're back in their faith. And all of these Bible studies are like overflowing. Like there's not even room for all the people who are trying to go to church all of a sudden. And I live in a place where everybody goes to church anyway, so I don't know if it's noticeable here, but apparently it's noticeable in a lot of places. And talked about that a little bit before, but Ben Carson was pretty cool. He also was pointing out how pastors and preachers no longer preach the Bible, but they preach the social gospel. And I've said this too, and I always say, like, I'm not a traditional Christian. I don't go to church. I'm not someone who insists that you use the Bible. But what I said is, why would you become a pastor if you didn't want to preach the Bible? Why would you become a pope if you didn't want to practice traditional Catholicism and promote the morals of traditional Catholicism? Why would you infiltrate this organization if what you want to do is destroy all of their tenets and their traditions? So while it's not my ball game, so to speak, I understand why you would want in any religion people who actually believe in the religion and promote it. That just makes sense to me. So Ben Carson was also talking about that, and he's absolutely right. The social gospel is what's being preached in most churches, not the real gospel. And again, if I was going to church, I would hope to be hearing the gospel. That's the whole point of going to the church, is to, right, get in touch with the Bible, the words of Jesus. Just saying. If I was going to the mosque, I'd expect to hear the Quran, And if you weren't, I'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you in this religion? It's not your religion. So it's not a specific religion thing. It's just a principle thing. Anyway, that's enough on the Charlie Kirk memorial. One more thing on Charlie Kirk, though. The Van Jones on CNN is talking to Anderson Cooper, and Van Jones is pretty ridiculous most of the time. He doesn't seem to always have a lot of facts at his disposal. He's very emotional. He does a lot of logical fallacies. Um, is he a good person or not? I don't know. I don't know. I can only guess based on what he says, and he just seems disorganized and unclear. But he was talking to um, Anderson Cooper, and tells the story about getting a direct message from Charlie Kirk that he didn't read until after Charlie Kirk died. So I guess right before Charlie Kirk was shot, him and Van Jones were, as Van Jones says, beefing. They were fighting, and Charlie Kirk reached out an olive branch to him. And by fighting, I think really just Charlie Kirk was disagreeing with him and Van Jones was being emotional, is my guess based on the little bit I know about each of them. But Charlie Kirk reached out an olive branch and said, "Hey, you can come on my show and we will behave like gentlemen to each other and we can disagree agreeably and we can both air our side out and just be fully heard, long form, no edits. Like, what do you say?" And then he died. And it really affects Van Jones. And again, this is one of the most authentic moments I've seen from him. The few times I've seen him, he's again very emotional, very shallow, reactive. And in this moment, he seems emotionally affected, and it's pretty powerful. And it is interesting because it's coming again from the sort of other side of the aisle, from the side that has radicalized so many people and spoken so much violence into being. And here he is having this sort of realization that, like, just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you have to be enemies, which apparently the whole world has forgotten. There's things on my posts all the time where people are like, well, this and this. And I'm like, well, no, I think this. And they're like, why are you attacking me? And I'm like, I'm not, dude. Like, I'm just not agreeing with you. I don't agree with you. It's okay. We don't have to hate each other. I won't be mean to you. We just don't agree. Van Jones apparently is learning this too. I hope the whole world learns this. We'll call it a win. Oh, remember that would-be Trump assassin who tried to kill him down at whatever it's called, his fancy place, Mesa Verde or something, Mar-a-Lago. Well, would-be Trump assassin has been found guilty, I think, on all counts. And so as the verdict was being read, as CNN reports, he grabbed the nearest pen and tried to jab it into his jugular to kill himself. So they stopped him. He's not dead. He definitely will not have a great time in federal prison, I'm pretty sure. Or is it the death penalty? I don't know. They haven't sentenced him yet. So is convicted, not dead, wasn't able to kill himself with the pen, going to prison. There was a mass shooting in New Hampshire that apparently no one is talking about at all. The terrorists did yell "Free Palestine" right before killing a person and injuring 2 others. I think that 2 of the 3 who were shot have survived and that 1 died last time I checked. So sending love to those victims. And again, there's a definite trend here. But here's some really good news, a couple of really good pieces of news before we end tonight. Really good wins. We had this ostrich farm in BC. I don't know if you're following this story, but I caught it right at the tail end of it. And essentially what happened is there was 500 ostriches. I don't know if you know how big ostriches are, but they're bigger than you. Giant birds, 500 of them. If you can imagine that. Very intelligent, joyful, playful creatures. They're also very mean sometimes, but there's plenty of videos of them being cute and playful. You can go see those. Anyway, 500 of them at this farm, and apparently 6 months ago, one of them tested positive for bird flu. So the government said we have to cull the whole herd. And the farm was like, no, it's 500 ostriches. We're not just going to kill them. They're super expensive. There's all these reasons why not. It's their business, by the way. We're not going to do it. And so finally the government's like, well, we're coming on September 24th, and we're going to kill all of them. They're going to cordon this all off. They're going to block access from anyone else. They've got drones, they've got agents, they've got guns. They're coming in to kill. They said, please, let's test them again. None of them have been sick this entire time we've been going through this battle. So clearly they're okay and don't need to be killed. And the government had the audacity to say, that's too expensive. We don't do it. It's cost prohibitive. They're like, "Well, isn't it cost prohibitive to bring your drones, your tape, your police cars, your police, your murderers, whoever's gonna kill all these birds? Isn't that cost prohibitive?" They're like, "No, it doesn't matter, we're coming." So it's getting down to, like, hours before they're gonna be there and kill them, or they're already there and they're getting ready to kill them. And then we get this update. The ostrich farm in BC is now under the protection of an Indian tribe, which has issued a cease and desist order to protect the birds and land. So when that happens, this is the best way. This has been used all over the world, by the way, to stop things like cloud seeding, geoengineering, and now the mass culling of these animals. So if you can get a tribe on your side, which you can, because of course they want to A, get good press, B, potentially get some maybe ostriches from you or something, right? And C, also protect the land and the animals, is what most tribes want to do. Then you get this unstoppable protection because they're sovereign nations that have these treaties that protect their religion and their resources in most cases. And their religion can cover things like ostriches. So this isn't ironclad. It is enough to have gotten them to stop, cease and desist, right? They had to stop and not go forward with it. So it saved the birds' lives for sure. That was really good news. Everybody on who was following the story was celebrating. I was crying, right? I was so happy. I was crying when I heard this was going to happen, and I was crying again when I heard it wasn't going to happen. So I cried for sadness the first time, cried for joy the second time. Then we've learned that the Supreme Court of Canada has granted a stay of execution for the ostriches. They will not be killed. It is permanent now, and it can't be gone back on. Super big win. 500 ostriches saved. Congratulations, everyone. Good job, Supreme Court. Good job, Native tribe. Good job, everybody who worked so hard. You can watch this video of these people listening to the news and just breaking down. They're like singing songs to God. Like, it's so cool. And we need more of that. That's the biggest win of all. So finally, we'll end here where Russia is going to seize the assets of international Satanists. Could you read a better headline? Is it better than the 500 ostriches? I don't know. But if it is actually even a tiny bit true, in the long run, what we need is more people seizing the assets of Satanists, stopping the Satanists dead in their tracks. We'll deal with the Luciferians later. For now, this is the end of Satanists. I love it. It is pretty cool. I'm sure it's just like PR, psyop sort of stuff, but if there's any truth to it, I will be happy. It's a great place to celebrate an ending win. And that is the winning report. Thank you all for being here. As always, thank you for being you. Thank you for carrying the wins in your heart as you travel through the world. Thank you. It matters. As we talked about the mass consciousness thing, it matters what you think about. It matters how you feel about it. It matters what you say and do. And so always be turning your eyes, your heart, your mind upwards to the highest truth, goodness, and beauty you can find. And until you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to these screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your